Change is often misunderstood as something big, dramatic, or world-shifting, but in reality, the most powerful changes are often the smallest ones that shift your energy, your focus, and your mindset. When it comes to toxic people, the one thing you need to change is not them, not your environment, not your circumstances, but yourself. Change how you respond to them, and you will watch them walk away on their own. Toxic people are like emotional vampires. They don't always come into your life with the intention of supporting you, uplifting you, or celebrating your growth. Instead, they thrive on control, manipulation, and the satisfaction of seeing you lose balance. Their power doesn't come from who they are, it comes from how you respond to them. Every time you explode in anger, defend yourself endlessly, or allow their words to steal your peace, you are feeding them the fuel they crave. That's the hidden truth. Toxic people feed on your reactions, not your silence. Think about it. When someone insults you, what are they really waiting for? They want to see if their words can sting. They want to witness your hurt, your confusion, your anger. The satisfaction for them is not in the words they spoke, but in the reaction they provoke. When you argue, when you scream, when you try to prove them wrong, they know they've succeeded in pulling you into their storm. They feed on that, they thrive on that, and the cycle continues because every reaction reinforces their behavior. But silence, that's different. Silence is a weapon they cannot fight. When you don't react, when you don't give them the emotional response they're looking for, it confuses them. It starves them. It forces them to face their own emptiness, because they no longer have access to your energy. This is why silence is not weakness, it is strength. It is not avoidance, it is strategy. It's the art of conserving your power, instead of handing it away. The moment you learn to stay calm in the face of provocation, you take back control. Toxic people can shout, manipulate, and throw their worst behavior at you, but if you remain centered, you win. They cannot understand why their usual tactics don't work anymore. They can't stand it when you refuse to dance to their tune. In fact, many toxic people will slowly back away when they realize they no longer have influence over your emotions. Now, this doesn't mean you always have to be silent or that you should tolerate mistreatment. Silence doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means choosing your battles wisely. Sometimes speaking up is necessary to set boundaries. But what this principle teaches us is that you don't need to over-explain, over-defend, or overreact to everything they say or do. You don't need to waste your precious energy on people who only seek to drain it. True strength is measured not by how loudly you can argue, but by how calmly you can respond. It's about reaching a point where you realize that not every comment deserves your attention, not every insult deserves your energy, and not every battle deserves your participation. You choose when to engage, and you choose when to stay silent, and that choice is your power. When you practice this, you'll notice something powerful. Toxic people will start losing interest in you. They'll realize they can't get under your skin anymore. They'll understand that you're no longer the easy target they once had. And eventually, they'll move on to someone else, someone who still reacts, someone who still gives them the fuel they crave. So remember this truth: toxic people don't survive in silence. They survive in chaos, arguments, and reactions. The less you give them, the weaker they become. Your silence is not just quiet, it is protection, it is peace, and it is power. The day you learn to control your reactions is the day you take away their control over you. One of the greatest mistakes people make when dealing with toxic individuals is believing that they can change them. We think, if I explain myself better, maybe they'll understand. If I show them kindness, maybe they'll treat me differently. If I argue harder, maybe they'll finally see the truth. But the painful reality is this: toxic people don't want to change. They benefit from their behavior. They thrive in manipulation, control, and negativity. You cannot change them, but you can absolutely change yourself. The real power lies not in changing them, but in changing how you respond. Why is this so important? Because the more you focus on changing a toxic person, the more trapped you become in their game. You end up wasting your energy on strategies to fix them, convince them, or even expose them. But while you're busy trying to change them, they're busy feeding off your frustration. They want you to stay locked in that cycle of trying harder and harder to make things better. This gives them power. The shift begins when you stop trying to control them and start controlling yourself. You might not be able to stop someone from lying, manipulating, or criticizing, but you can control whether or not you internalize their words. You can control whether or not you engage in their drama. You can control whether you let their negativity dictate your mood or steal your peace. That is where your strength lies. Imagine this: a toxic person throws an insult at you. If you react with anger, shouting, or defending yourself, you've just handed them control. But if you respond calmly, or even better, choose not to respond at all, you take the power back. The insult doesn't define you, their opinion doesn't shape you, and their behavior doesn't lower your energy. By changing how you respond, you make their toxic tactics ineffective. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings or pretend things don't hurt. It means you acknowledge your feelings, but you don't let them rule you in that moment. It means you rise above the provocation. It means you understand that their behavior is a reflection of them, not a reflection of you. When you make this shift, you stop being a victim of their actions and instead become the master of your own emotions. The beauty of this mindset is that it creates freedom. You are no longer tied to the exhausting idea of fixing people who don't want to be fixed. You no longer carry the heavy burden of making them treat you right. Instead, you protect your own peace, you safeguard your energy, and you decide how much space they're allowed to occupy in your life. Changing how you respond also sets a silent, but powerful boundary. Toxic people quickly learn who they can and cannot manipulate. When they see that their usual methods, criticism, guilt, tripping, gaslighting, don't work on you, they lose interest. They either reduce their behavior around you or drift away completely. Either way, you win because your emotional stability remains intact. At the end of the day, you cannot control the world around you, but you can always control the world within you. You can choose patience over anger, peace over chaos, silence over drama, and self-respect over endless explanations. And when you make those choices consistently, you'll discover a power you never knew you had, the power to remain unshaken in the presence of toxicity. So remember this truth: your job is not to change them. Your job is to change you. You'll never win by fighting for their transformation, but you will always win by mastering your own response. That's where freedom begins, and that's when toxic people start to lose their grip on your life. Toxic people are masters of draining energy. They don't always want your love, your understanding, or your wisdom. They want your emotional reaction. Every time you lose your temper, over-explain yourself, or get tangled in endless arguments, you are giving them exactly what they crave: your energy. This is the invisible currency they feed on. The more you give, the stronger their grip becomes. The less you give, the weaker they grow. That's why withholding emotional energy is the most effective way to starve their control. Think of your emotional energy as fuel. Each day, you only have a certain amount of it. Healthy people use it to inspire you, support you, and build meaningful connections. Toxic people, on the other hand, use it to keep you exhausted, distracted, and dependent on them. They manipulate situations just to trigger you, because your emotional response validates their sense of power. For example, imagine you are in a conversation with someone toxic, and they make a cutting remark about your abilities. If you fire back defensively, they win because you've shown them they got to you. If you argue endlessly to prove your worth, they win again because you're trapped in their game. But if you withhold your emotional energy, if you remain calm, neutral, and detached, they lose their grip. It's like trying to start a fire with no oxygen. Eventually, the flame dies out. This doesn't mean you should suppress your emotions, or pretend you don't feel pain. It means you learn to guard your energy wisely. You recognize that not everyone deserves a reaction. You understand that engaging with every provocation only drains you and empowers them. Withholding energy is not weakness. It is strength disguised as restraint. It is the discipline of knowing when to walk away, when to remain silent, and when to refuse to let someone's behavior dictate your state of mind. Toxic people thrive in chaos, because chaos keeps you unstable. When you withhold energy, you create peace for yourself. That peace is their enemy. They don't know what to do with someone who refuses to be baited. They don't know how to control someone who won't hand over their emotions so easily. Slowly, they begin to lose interest because their tactics stop working. They will either back off, change their behavior, or eventually walk away in search of someone else to manipulate. Here's the powerful part: withholding emotional energy doesn't just affect them, it transforms you. You become calmer, stronger, and more self-aware. You realize how much of your energy you used to waste on defending yourself, explaining yourself, or trying to make others see your worth. When you stop feeding toxic people, you suddenly have more energy to invest in yourself, your growth, your happiness, your peace, and the relationships that truly matter. Ask yourself, how many arguments have left you drained, yet changed nothing? How many times have you tried to convince a toxic person of the truth, only to be met with more denial or manipulation? The truth is, nothing changes when you pour energy into them. But everything changes when you save that energy for yourself. Starving their control isn't about revenge or punishment. It's about liberation. It's about no longer allowing your emotions to be a puppet pulled by someone else's strings. It's about saying, my energy is mine, and I will not waste it on people who don't deserve it. That mindset builds unshakable strength. So, the next time a toxic person tries to provoke you, remember this: every reaction you give them is food. Every ounce of energy you withhold is power. The less you feed them, the faster their control fades. And when their control fades, your freedom begins. When most people are confronted by toxic behavior, their first instinct is to fight back. It feels natural to argue, to defend, to prove your point, or to match their intensity with your own. But here's the paradox: the more you engage in anger and arguments, the more power you hand over to the toxic person. They thrive in conflict, because conflict gives them control over your emotions. What truly disarms them is not fighting harder, but refusing to fight at all. Peace, calm, and detachment are far stronger than anger or arguments. Why is this so powerful? Because toxic people expect chaos. They bait you into emotional reactions. They know what buttons to press, and what words to say to push you over the edge. When you explode in anger, they win. When you waste hours arguing, they win. But when you meet their chaos with calm, you throw them off balance. They don't know how to handle a person who refuses to be pulled into drama. Your peace frustrates them more than your shouting ever could. Calmness doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're in control. It shows that you've mastered yourself, that you don't need to prove your worth through words, and that you will not let anyone dictate your emotional state. In fact, calmness is one of the most intimidating responses you can give to someone toxic. They expect a battle. When they don't get one, they realize they've lost their hold over you. Detachment is equally important. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you choose where to care. It's the ability to step back and say, I see your behavior, but I will not let it consume me. Detachment is emotional independence. It's understanding that their opinion does not define your value. Their anger does not control your peace, and their drama does not require your participation. By detaching, You protect yourself from the emotional roller coaster they try to trap you in. Peace is your ultimate weapon. When you protect your peace, you protect your energy, your clarity, and your ability to focus on what truly matters. Anger clouds judgment. Arguments drain energy. But peace allows you to stay strong, centered, and clear-headed. With peace, you can make smarter decisions, like when to walk away, when to set boundaries, and when to cut ties altogether. Consider this: have you ever walked away from an argument, feeling truly satisfied? Probably not. Arguments with toxic people never end in resolution, they only end in exhaustion. No matter how strong your points are, they twist the truth, deny the facts, or shift the blame. You cannot win a battle of words with someone committed to misunderstanding you. But you can win by refusing to enter the battle at all. That's where calmness and peace come in. The beauty of peace is that it protects you long after the moment is over. When you choose calm over anger, you preserve your dignity. When you choose detachment over arguments, you keep your energy intact. Toxic people eventually learn that they cannot shake you. And when they realize they cannot control you, they either change their behavior or drift out of your life entirely. So remember this: the strongest person is not the one who shouts the loudest, but the one who stays calm in the storm. The most powerful fighter is not the one who argues endlessly, but the one who walks away with peace still intact. Your calmness is your shield, your detachment is your armor, and your peace is your victory. The next time someone tries to drag you into drama, don't fight harder. Be calmer. Don't argue longer, detach sooner. Don't lose your peace, protect it fiercely, because in the end, peace, calm, and detachment are the real weapons that no toxic person can defeat. Toxic people often stay in our lives longer than they should, not because they are too powerful, but because our boundaries are too weak. They thrive where there are no limits, where they can take advantage of your kindness, your patience, and your forgiveness. But the moment you begin to set clear boundaries and live with self-respect, you create an environment where toxic behavior cannot survive. Boundaries and self-respect don't just protect you, they naturally push toxic people away. A boundary is a line you draw to protect your well-being. It's the point where you say, "This is what I will accept, and this is what I will not." It might look like refusing to engage in endless arguments, limiting how much time you spend with certain people, or saying no without guilt when something doesn't feel right. Boundaries aren't walls that shut people out. They are gates that decide what you let in. And when you enforce those gates with self-respect, you filter out the toxicity that doesn't deserve to enter your life. Toxic people hate boundaries. Why? Because boundaries limit their control. They can no longer demand all of your time, invade your peace, or manipulate your emotions as easily. Boundaries take away their favorite weapons: guilt, tripping, shaming, and exploiting your kindness. When you stand firm in your self-respect and enforce your limits, toxic people are forced to do one of two things: adjust their behavior or leave. Either outcome benefits you. Self-respect is the foundation of strong boundaries. If you don't respect yourself, you'll constantly bend your limits to keep others happy. You'll tolerate disrespect because you're afraid of losing someone. You'll sacrifice your peace to avoid conflict. But self-respect changes everything. It gives you the courage to say, "I deserve better," even if it means disappointing others. It empowers you to choose your peace over their approval, your worth over their manipulation. Imagine a toxic person trying to pull you into an argument. Without boundaries, you engage and exhaust yourself. With boundaries, you simply say, "I'm not having this conversation right now," and walk away. Imagine a toxic friend always taking from you but never giving back. Without self-respect, you keep tolerating it, hoping they'll change. With self-respect, you say, "This relationship no longer serves me," and create distance. Those choices don't require confrontation or drama. They require only clarity and courage, and toxic people cannot survive in that kind of clarity. The beauty of boundaries is that they silently communicate your worth. You don't have to shout, argue, or prove anything. By how you treat yourself and what you allow, others quickly learn how to treat you. Toxic people realize they can't cross your lines, so they either respect them or exit your life. Either way, you win. Boundaries also protect your energy. Without them, you give too much of yourself away, your time, your peace, your emotional strength. With them, you conserve your energy for the people and things that truly matter. You stop pouring into black holes and start investing in places where love, respect, and support are mutual. Here's the truth: people who truly love and respect you will never be offended by your boundaries. They will appreciate them. It's only toxic people who fight against your limits, because your boundaries expose their intentions. They don't want to respect you, they want to control you. And when they realize they can't, they naturally walk away. So remember this: boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. Self-respect is not arrogance, it is survival. The more you honor yourself, the less room you create for toxicity. Stand firm, protect your peace, and value yourself enough to enforce your limits. Because when you do, toxic people will no longer find comfort in your life. They'll leave on their own, and you'll be left with the peace you always deserved. One of the most exhausting traps we fall into, when dealing with toxic people, is trying to manage their emotions. We spend our time walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting them, softening our words so they won't explode, or constantly trying to make them happy so they won't create drama. But the truth is, you cannot manage someone else's emotions. You cannot fix their anger, heal their insecurity, or control their reactions. That's not your responsibility. Your true power lies in mastering your own emotions, not in managing theirs. Toxic people rely on emotional manipulation. They know how to trigger guilt, fear, and frustration in you to keep control. If you spend your energy managing their moods, you'll end up drained and resentful, because it's an endless task. You can never do enough to satisfy someone who thrives on dissatisfaction. But when you shift the focus inward and begin mastering your own emotional responses, everything changes. You reclaim the power you once gave away. Emotional mastery doesn't mean you never feel hurt, angry, or frustrated. It means you learn to control your reactions instead of letting those emotions control you. For example, when a toxic person tries to provoke you, instead of lashing out or shutting down, you pause. You breathe. You ask yourself, is this worth my peace? More often than not, the answer is no. That pause, the ability to choose calm over chaos, is the sign of true strength. When you master your emotions, toxic people lose their favorite weapon. They can no longer guilt you into submission, because you've learned to separate their feelings from your responsibility. They can no longer provoke you into endless arguments, because you've learned that silence is often more powerful than words. They can no longer manipulate your sense of worth, because you've learned that your value is not up for debate. By controlling yourself, you take away their ability to control you. The beauty of mastering your emotions is that it creates freedom. You're no longer a puppet tied to someone else's strings. You don't live in constant fear of their reactions, because their reactions no longer dictate your choices. Instead, you live with clarity, knowing that you control your peace, your joy, and your state of mind. That kind of freedom is what toxic people cannot stand, because it means they've lost their grip on you. It's important to remember that managing others' emotions is a losing battle, because their feelings belong to them, not to you. If someone chooses to be angry, bitter, or negative, that's their responsibility. You can show kindness, but you can't cure their toxicity. You can be respectful, but you can't erase their bitterness. Their emotions are theirs to carry, just as yours are yours to master. Emotional mastery also builds resilience. Life will always bring challenges, and not everyone you meet will treat you well. But when you're in control of yourself, no storm can shake you completely. You learn to rise above negativity, to detach from manipulation, and to walk away from people who refuse to grow. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. So stop wasting your energy trying to manage everyone else's moods. Stop apologizing for things that aren't your fault. Stop sacrificing your peace just to keep toxic people comfortable. Instead, turn that energy inward. Learn to master your own emotions, to protect your own peace, and to stand firm in your self-respect. Because in the end, your greatest strength isn't in fixing anyone else. It's in refusing to let anyone else break you. And when you master that, toxic people have no choice but to walk away, because they realize you are no longer someone they can control.